Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Fractured Realities. It's been a little while. Things have been kind of busy for me lately. As you know, I work two jobs. I'm a part-time caretaker for a handicapped individual, and I also am an assistant manager of a major department or store, which I'm not going to mention names because I don't do free advertising. But so yeah, I haven't released a video in a little while, and sometimes you want to step away and just kind of reflect on the world, and then something just comes along and stops you in your tracks. It just is something that just profoundly hurts you inside when you see it. I'm not a very emotional person, but there's certain things that definitely trigger me and that make me a unhappy person. One thing that if you've seen some of my other videos, you'll know that I'm adamantly against any sort of abuse of children. And when it comes to sexual abuse, which is obviously the very worst possible thing you could do, is to strip somebody of their innocence and to take it from them. Now, I'm doing this to address the shit show that I see on social media about the whole Leaving Neverland documentary on HBO. And I watched it. I had reservations about it, but I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to see his accusers and see their reactions and see if I believe them. I'm usually a good judge of character. I could tell when people are lying. People fidget, their eyes move, they stammer over words, they stutter. They speak incoherently. They bounce their legs, fiddle with their hair. There's lots of different ways to tell when somebody's is speaking a non-truth. So, I watched the first part of it. There were several times when I had to get up and just fucking walk out of the room. I couldn't. I had to go on, excuse myself and smoke a cigarette and come back to it later, because it was just very graphic descriptions of the by the accusers of what Michael Jackson had done to them as a child. And it's really been strange this past couple years with the Me Too movement, and so many people like Bill Cosby and people that you grew up and that you idolized, these larger than life people, you find out that, they weren't very good people, that they were, in fact, they used their positions in life to harm other people. And most of them got away with it. Michael Jackson, whether guilty or innocent, definitely got away with things that he should not have gotten away with in life. Things that would not be acceptable for any other person who wasn't rich and famous, or who couldn't afford F. Lee Bailey, or I can't remember his other lawyers, but this dream team of lawyers that he spent millions and millions of dollars and put together. A normal person couldn't have done that. A normal person would have been spending 20 years in jail if they weren't Michael Jackson. And I firmly believe that. And I believe that his cult of personality, the fact that so many people liked him and adored him and, watched him grow up, for some of the older folks out there. And he was a larger-than-life personality. I mean, speaking for myself, I always liked rock music. When I was 5 years old, my older brother bought me my first album, Highway to Hell. And I listened to it nonstop. I must have listened to the song Highway to Hell 1,000 times and sat there and frickin' with a plunger on our landing where our steps went upstairs, and I'd sit there and sing along, and goofy childhood memories. But when I got a little bit older, that's when the whole MTV generation hit, and you constantly see Michael Jackson everywhere. He was in fucking Pepsi commercials. He was cartoons, just everywhere, everything you could think of. I think he did a Super Bowl halftime show. I'm not 100% sure about that, but and then I saw the Thriller video, and I'm like, wow, I was always a horror fan, so I thought that was pretty cool. That somebody kind of mainstream. I always thought the guy was a little weird. I didn't fanboy him completely, but yeah, I had Thriller. I own the album. I listened to it. As I got a little bit older, I kind of realized it was kind of poppy and kind of corny, and I wasn't too much into the whole dancing pop music genre. It was a little too mainstream for me, even as a kid. And not to say that I'm some hardcore freak or anything like that. I listen to a little bit of everything, but I just, pop music just isn't really my forte. But, so yeah, I grew up with Michael Jackson just like everybody else grew up with Michael Jackson. And, when the accusations came out in 1993, and then they were quickly dismissed, I never really followed the case. I didn't know much about it. I was still a young kid at that time, and I was out, doing young kid shit. I was chasing girls and having fun in life. I wasn't paying attention to the news media, especially about somebody that I hadn't thought about in 10 years. But, like I said, and he was not vindicated of those charges. This is one thing that a lot of people need to get straight about the Jordan Chandler case in 1993. He was never proven innocent. The case was thrown out, and there was an out-of-court settlement. All kinds of numbers have been thrown around, anything between $5 million. I've heard up to $25 million. I've heard $23 million. Who knows? But Michael Jackson paid out several $1 million, let's just say that, to silence an accuser. Now, no person, if I was a multi-billionaire and I was accused of something like this, there's no way that I would pay out absorbent amount of money like that if I wasn't guilty of the crime. So I always thought that was kind of weird, but I kind of put it to the fucking back burner. I didn't think about it. Like I said, I was out, chasing girls and playing music and going to concerts and, enjoying life at the time. So I didn't think too much of it. And then the shit hit the fan in 2005. I actually did follow some of the media on that, and I saw some of the comments, and then I saw the Oprah interview where he admits that he sleeps with children. Just like it's the most natural thing. Oh, it's the most natural, beautiful thing on earth. There's nothing more sweet than sleeping with children. Like, well, I didn't have kids at the time, but motherfucker, seriously. Well, yeah, actually, I'm sorry, I did have kids at the time. They were very young, but there's no way that sleeping with children that are not your own children is okay. And even in my opinion, once your kids get to be of a certain age, sleeping in a bed with your children is still not okay. Yeah, so I definitely felt that there was a little truth to that he was at least a little on the pervy side. And then A couple. Then there was the other guy. I can't remember his name, but it was a Hispanic kid, and he was on a TV show. I can't remember which one it was, but he's holding his hand like they're a couple. This young Hispanic boy that was had to be 12 or 13 years old. Like it's, it's speaking on terms like he's a couple. They're a couple, and just a few days after that, when his Neverland Ranch was raided, which they found pornography. They found several of the children's fingerprints on the pornography. So he 100% was showing these children pornography. He 100% was sleeping in the bed with these children. Now, watching James Safechuck and Wade Robson speak on it, I did not get the sense that they were lying. I mean, you could see the pain in their eyes when they were talking. This, and even at some points the joy of sort of the Achilles heel of what happens to people who are groomed and molested, and there was definitely grooming that went on. He groomed them and he treated them like he was in a relationship with them, which, there's no reason that they should have ever been allowed. I definitely blame their parents. Okay, so let's talk about a few of the accusers. I don't have a whole lot of facts. I didn't do a whole lot of research into the accusers. But in 1993, his accuser was a man named Evan Chandler. Evan Chandler was a dentist. He had a wife named June Chandler, who he was separated from, who had custody of their son named Jordan Chandler. Well, June Chandler, I'm not sure how they met. I don't know too many details about the 1993 case, but he met Michael Jackson at the age of 13. And when Evan Chandler, the father, confronted Jordan about, sleeping in the bed with Michael Jackson and that type of thing, that's when Jordan admitted that there was some inappropriate actions going on. And the story is always very similar between all five of Jackson's accusers. Throughout time, there were five that I know of, at least anyway, that are on public record. So Jordan Chandler was the first accuser. His mother and father took Michael Jackson to court and damned them because of the fact that they did not see it through. If somebody had molested or hurt one of my children, who at that young of an age, I would see it through to the end. Hell hath no fury. As a matter of fact, I would probably be in prison myself. But no, they took a paycheck. But did that paycheck make them happy in the end? No, obviously not, because 6 months after Michael Jackson passed away in 2009, Evan Chandler, the father of Jordan Chandler, the accuser, and all those millions of dollars, they didn't do him a whole lot of good because he took his own life. And you're going to see this is actually an ongoing thing. See, not only did he molest and hurt children, he also destroyed several families. Okay, starting with the Chandler family. So then let's move to accuser number 2. These aren't necessarily in chronological order, but there's the Safechucks. James Safechuck Jr., who met Michael Jackson during a Pepsi commercial. This wasn't a well-off kid. He was a young, decent-looking kid who had some acting ability, but he was no, Macaulay Culkin. He was no big superstar at the time. He didn't have handlers. He didn't have people watching out for him. He had a father who I don't know what on earth is the matter with frickin' James Safechuck Sr., his father, who thought that it was perfectly fine not only for his son to spend time with Michael Jackson, sleep in Michael Jackson's bed, he also witnessed Michael Jackson kiss his son on the mouth and said that was perfectly fine because he kisses his son on the mouth at Michael Jackson's family. Well, whatever. He was obviously getting something out of this. He has some sort of financial gain or celebrity fucking something. I'm not sure what he got out of it, but he's just not a fucking good person, in my opinion. Sorry. I don't know the guy. I've never seen too much about him. He didn't make any comments or say anything at all in leaving Neverland. So the mother, on the other hand, Stephanie Safechuck, who at the time was a beautiful woman, and any woman in her right mind should know that if somebody is supposedly, as Michael Jackson was supposedly at the time, a 30-year-old straight male, and she was a knockout. I mean, in 2018 or 2019, she's still a pretty woman. Michael Jackson never attempted to hit on her, never anything, and she allowed 100%, either from stupidity, naivety, or financial gain, allowed her son James to sleep in the bed with Michael Jackson, to stay at Michael Jackson's house when he wasn't there. And James Safechuck, when he became acquainted with Michael Jackson, was 10 years old. So at 11, I believe, was when the molestation started. So we have a 13-year-old and we have a 10-year-old so far. Now here's where it gets real sick. There was a 7-year-old boy, 7, who entered a Michael Jackson dance contest in Australia. His name was Wade Robson. Wade Robson's probably the most famous of his accusers. He was a choreographer for the Stars. He did that, but he basically did that with financial help from his affiliation with Michael Jackson over the years. He met Michael at 7, began staying with Michael, and within, just a few days of him spending time around Michael Jackson, according to his account, he was molested. Not actual penetration, but masturbation, for and with, just very inappropriate, nasty things, and I'm not going to get into full details about it because it literally makes me sick to my stomach. But yeah, 7, or actually an 8-year-old boy. Not only did he do that, but he convinced the mother. The mother's name was Chantel Robson, another beautiful redheaded Australian woman who Michael didn't want to go near. He had a sister named Joy who would also come there and hang out, but Michael, according to early reports, was so innocent. He loved children, but he never invited Joy, Wade's older sister, to stay at his house. He never invited her to sleep in his room. And for that matter, he begged to let Wade stay at his house while the rest of the family went on vacation to the Grand Canyon. which they never should have done. And the whole time while he's giving money to and enhancing their life, he encourages Chantel to move, or I'm sorry, Joy is the mother, Chantel's the sister, to move her family away from their father and his older brother. Several years later, the father, Dennis Robson, also committed suicide. He literally lost his family because they were starstruck by Michael Jackson. And, he may have had mental problems before that. I'm not saying that's 100% the cause of his suicide, but I do believe that it led to his depression. And when he was left with nobody in Australia while the rest of his family was running around, driving cars that were bought by Michael Jackson, he hung himself. So that's 3 families that were destroyed. Both Safechuck and Robson kind of have very fractured relationships with their mothers, which is perfectly understandable. Like I said, Safechuck's father wasn't mentioned a whole lot. I don't think he wanted anything to do with that. I think he knows how stupid he was. But, yeah, so the Safechuck family was ruined. The Chandler family ruined. The Robson family ruined. And then we get into 2005. Once again, Michael Jackson was accused. This time he was accused of molestation on 2 separate children. One was Gavin Arvizio, who was a 13-year-old who was actually a cancer patient who stayed with Jackson and accused him. And there was also a maid's son whose name I could not find, who claims that between the ages of 7 to 10 years old, he was molested several times by Michael Jackson. Now, all 5 of Jackson's accusers tell very similar stories. And I don't believe that, Gavin Arvizio and Jordan Chandler had anything to do with Wade Robson or James Safechuck. As a matter of fact, both in the 93 trial, both Safechuck and Robson, who were both very young but still financially gaining from their friendship with Jackson, testified for Jackson. And then Wade Robson also testified. James Safechuck did not, but Wade Robson testified in the 2003 or 2005 trial against or for Jackson. But from what he said, he was coerced into it and basically threatened, told that, if he didn't do that, he wasn't a very good friend. It was mental mind games. It was all part of the whole grooming process that he brought these young men through. So this is okay. This is my analysis of that. After listening to the video, sitting through 4 hours of just imagining this kind of hellacious abuse that they took, and seeing their reactions, I believe that it's true. I believe that Michael Jackson was a child molester and that he did hurt these children. Now, one of the things that's certainly been bothering me a lot this week is people's reaction to these accusations. People are, saying that, because I guess Safe Chuck and Robson later on had a lawsuit against the Jackson family. My opinion, a little too late. They should have came out against him earlier. But people were calling. But if their lives were ruined and destroyed, their families destroyed, shouldn't there be some kind of compensation for them? Okay, that's not really for me to say. And those cases were thrown out because they said that it was past the statute of limitations. So, once again, Michael Jackson got away with it. Now, in the 2005 trial, you had two named celebrities who came forward and said that they had never been molested by Michael Jackson and that he was a good guy and a great person. One was Corey Feldman and the other one was Macaulay Culkin. Now, let's talk about Macaulay and the other one for a second. Macaulay Culkin, when he came into contact with Michael Jackson, Corey Feldman as well, were already childhood stars, which means they had agents, they had handlers, they had people looking out for them. So I don't think that those handlers and those agents and their parents or whoever was representing them would have let them be in a position to be molested by Jackson. So yes, I don't believe that they were molested by Jackson. Now, Corey Feldman's came out and said that he was molested by several people in the industry. If anybody followed the Corey Haim thing, he committed suicide and he said that he was molested several times. In my honest opinion, one of the people that I think Corey Haim mentioned was Jackson, but, there's no proof to that, so we'll just leave that at speculation. But that's my belief that it's possible that Jackson didn't molest them, didn't hurt them, that they weren't allowed, or that they had the proper handling around them because of the fact that they were already stars in Hollywood to not be put in that position. So, yeah. And then you got other people who are, saying, oh, who cares? He's dead. Well, who cares? These people's lives were fucking ruined. Wade Robson's never going to get his father back. Jordan Chandler's never going to get his father back. He's never going to get that innocence back that was stolen from him. That's something that he's going to die with. That's something that all five of these boys, if what they're saying is true, are going to go to their grave with. The fact that their innocence was fucking taken away by a pedophile, by somebody who used their power and their influence in order to fucking commit deviant acts, and did this for years and years and years, and threatened. He told all five of these boys that, yeah, we'll both go to jail for life. Yeah, it'll ruin your life. They'll come after you. They'll put you in jail. This is the kind of shit that pedophiles do. They groom. Okay? Just because Michael Jackson danced great and you liked his songs and you grew up watching him doesn't mean he's a good fucking person. Doesn't mean that there's a justification because he's some kind of star that he has the right to do these things. No one has the right to hurt a child, ever, for any fucking reason. And then we get to Barbra Streisand. Let me pull this up because I'm going to get this comment perfectly straight because I don't want assholes coming on here telling me, oh, you misquoted. Here's what Barbra Streisand had to say. It didn't kill them. What else? His sexual needs were his sexual needs, coming from whatever childhood he has or whatever DNA he has. How can you say molested? You say molested, but those children, as you heard, say they were thrilled to be there. They both married and they both have children, so it didn't kill him. You old gonzo-nosed, fucking delusional, fucking irrelevant bitch. Just because he was a celebrity and your caliber, you're shitting on fucking rose petals, elite fucking society, doesn't mean that he was innocent, or it doesn't mean that it was acceptable. I don't give a fuck about his childhood or what he went through. Shit, if fucking these things were true and I could find out about them and I could go back in history, I'd help Joe Jackson beat his ass. Fuck you, Streisand. Who are you anyway? You're a nobody. Fade away into the fucking night. Your opinions are irrelevant. And all you assholes who just blatantly say, oh, I don't want to watch it because it's bullshit. It ain't true. Michael didn't do that. You're fucking sticking your head in the fucking sand and denying a fact. Or denying what could be a fact. You're not even looking at both sides. Look at both sides and make your decision. I'm not saying that Michael Jackson was a child molester or not. I believe he was. I don't know 100% without proof. So watch Neverland. Watch Leaving Neverland. Watch all 4 hours of it and make your own choice and your own decision before you say things, horrible shit, like all you internet idiots who just want to claim this. And I don't want to fucking hear about Michael Jackson being set up by the fucking Illuminati. Michael Jackson, if there is a fucking Illuminati in Hollywood, Michael Jackson was very much a part of that shit, which is part of the reason he was never fucking accused or never found guilty of anything. Why a lot of stars fucking kill people in road accidents, do things. Look at prime example. I just watched the movie The Dirt. Now, if I got into a car accident, I was driving drunk, and I murdered one of my friends, like Vince Neil from Motley Crue did, I would be in jail. Vince served no time. 19 days. Yeah, big. The elite. Yes, they get away with fucking murder. They get away with child molestation. You know, and this goes way, way back in history. I'm not going to get into a whole big, long diatribe about Hollywood and its evilness and its elites. Just, you know, look up the Natalie Wood case. Look up, look up Phil Spector. Several of these fucking Hollywood elites who just got away with things for a long time. Some of them they caught up with. And you know what? A lot of times I don't get behind liberal causes. I don't get behind fads. But I believe that the Me Too movement is important. I believe that victims of sexual abuse, sexual molestation, have the right to come forward. I think that they have the right. And I praise people like the Rose McGowan. I might not agree with her politically, and I think that the chick's about half batshit crazy. But you know what? Good for her. Good for Rose McGowan for coming out. Good for Rose McGowan for fighting fucking Harvey Weinstein. Good for the women who came out and finally said something about frickin' Bill Cosby. It's not acceptable as a man, as a woman, as a person to force yourself on people, to force your will. It's never okay. It's never all right to hurt a child. It's never all right to have sexual feelings for a child. If you do yourself a favor and do what Michael Jackson did in 2009. Except I might suggest doing a little more painful, a gun perhaps, maybe, fucking hang yourself. But yeah, take your own life. Don't take the innocence of a child. I'm sorry, that's my opinion. I feel very strongly about this subject. I'm a father. I care about my kids. I care about other people's kids. And I want to know that there's a safe world where there's justice for those who are molested and who are hurt. If you're a Michael Jackson fan, so sorry. I was a Michael Jackson fan at one time too. No longer. This is the last time I will ever mention the man's name This is the last time I will mention anything about him. The man's maggot food. May he fucking eternally rest hard. And I would suggest, if those of you who know properly what I'm talking about, if you have access to his gravesite, take a little bit of that grave dirt, put it in a little white box. Take that little white box, immerse it in water, put it in a black box, and seal the fucking thing. How dare you, Michael? How dare you take innocence from children? And how dare you fucking fanboys and girls out there defend somebody who did something like this? Shame on you all. And with that, I'm signing off. If I offended you, fuck you. Wake up. It's time you were offended.